Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending an IPMA webinar. I'm Jennifer Chambers, the IPMA Executive Assistant. You are here for the How Implants Can Promote Their Print Services and Overcome a Lack of Awareness Using a Little-Known Strategy webinar presented by Mr. David Rosendahl with Mindfire. David is the president and co-founder of Mindfire, a two-time Inc. 500 award-winning software company. Commercial printers, agencies, and brands like BMW, Microsoft, Harvard, Facebook, and 15-plus other companies grow their leads and sales with Mindfire's unique marketing platform that finds and engages clients while using direct mail, email, and social. David, we are just so happy to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. It's an honor to be here, and I know your time is the most valuable thing you have, so I really appreciate the fact that you would spend an hour with us here going through this material. So if you're ready to get started, Jennifer mentioned there should be a little question box somewhere on maybe like the right-hand side of your screen. Show us that you know where that's at. Go over there and drop a yes in the question box if you're here and ready to rock and roll. We want to make sure that this session stays interactive. So we want to make sure that you know how to interact with us. So just go over there and drop a yes. There we go. I can see the yeses coming in. Fantastic. Now, what I want you to do. What's that?
I said there's a bunch of them.
Yep. They're here. They're live. They're kicking. Now, what I want you to do in that little question box, if you haven't dropped a yes in there, or even if you have, is just say, hey, Dave, hey, Jennifer, I'm in, and just tell us where in the country you are and where you heard about this webinar. Where did you hear about this web training today? We want to get a sense for where you folks are dialing in. I am in Southern California, about an hour away from, I don't know if you've seen the news, but where the world seems to be burning. And we're good, we're okay, we're safe here. But there are quite a lot of different activities going on right now trying to take care of this fire. So I'm in Southern California. Let me see where some of you are real quick. I'm just going to look here. Florida, Minnesota, Charlottesville, Oklahoma, Kansas, Omaha. Wow, we got a lot of different folks here from different areas. Yeah, keep the comments coming, folks. The more you interact with me, the more you interact with us, the better this time is going to be. So keep that box open and let's have some fun. So as Jennifer said just a moment ago, the title of our presentation today is How Implants Can Promote Their Print Services and Overcome a Lack of Awareness, using a little-known strategy, which I'm going to show you today, that almost or nearly guarantees results. And I don't know about you, but if I heard that, I would be pretty excited, but at the same time, I would also be a little bit dubious, maybe thinking, okay, Dave, that sounds a little too good to be true. But it is true, folks, and I'm going to show you this strategy. Yes, it's strange. Yes, it's a little weird, but it's something that you can use to stay top of mind and generate awareness in today's modern, busy marketing world. And it's a way that you can engage your parent organization, the folks that you are beholden to, so that they're thinking of you more, requesting more work, driving more activity through your implant, engaging you more. Okay? This is something that very few people are talking about it, but once you learn the method, you will be able to see how you can begin to get in front of your parent organization more frequently so that they're engaging you with more requests for print-related services, products, things that you can offer. And the way I'm going to show you this is I'm going to give you kind of the backstory of how we discovered this, and then walk you through a real-life campaign that uses this unconventional technique and show you how it creates somewhere on the order of 23 leads per day using this strategy, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same thing, okay? And once you're familiar with how this works, I think you're going to find that the technique is simple. It's not necessarily easy unless you know these three secrets that unlock the process for you, and that's what I want to show you, okay? So because some of this is a little strange and it could be used in crazy ways that maybe aren't necessarily good, I need you all to make me a promise, okay? So look at the screen right now. You probably recognize this fellow here, somebody who is very talented probably, but used his talents in the wrong direction, okay? I want you to go over to the question box. Go there right now and say, Dave, I promise that I won't do any bad stuff with this. I promise I won't do any evil. I need to see the promises coming in over here, okay? Thank you, Joseph. I see you promised. Angela saying she promised. Steve, Ellen. I usually get one pinky swear, and there's Ellen with at least the pinky swear there. Now, obviously, we're kind of joking, but really, folks, the stuff that you're going to learn here in the next 60 minutes will give you the ability to do things that you could use in the wrong way, okay? But I want to make sure you hear me that that's not the intention, of course. I'm showing you how you can derive a lot of value from a technique that's going to help you stay in front of your parent organization and drive awareness, and you're going to be able to do that for yourselves as well, okay? The point of what we're doing today, the outcome, likely the reason that you're here with me right now, is that you want your management, you want your parent organization to know your value over external facility management services, over the outside competition, whatever the case may be. You want them coming to you asking for more work. You want to drive awareness of your value and what you can do to service them. If you're like most that I talk to, it's hard to maintain that kind of awareness, especially when we're an implant and we've got, external competitive pressure, external competitors with offerings that, maybe are a distraction to our parent organization. These outside vendors, in some cases, as you know, have significantly higher marketing budgets, or they can spend more to drive awareness, and that can tilt people their direction. So what I want to do for you is give you a way to drive more inbound desire, more inbound need for your implant services, okay? If that resonates with you, if that's something you're looking for, go give me an X in the chat box, okay? I wanna make sure we're tracking here. Drop an X in the chat box if that resonates. I don't know if you can hear this. Let me get a little closer to it. That's obviously the sound of some beautiful print there. These leads that I'm talking about, this awareness that I'm talking about is good, but ultimately what I wanna help you do is drive awareness for your implant so that, let's say you're offering inkjet services, promotional products, maybe large format. I know that more of you getting into apparel printing, personalized sewing, all of these different types of products and services. Regardless of what it is, this technique will work for you, okay? And I took a look at the attendee list. I know we have folks here in government, manufacturing, education, insurance, advertising, high tech, marketing, PR. Regardless of the industry that you find yourself in, this technique will work. Now, when we first started using what I'm about to show you here, we didn't think that we would start generating 23 leads a day, okay? And I know that might sound like a huge number to you, but I'm going to show you how we got there, and I'm going to show you how you can do the same. And so for the next few minutes here, I'm going to be giving you an overview of how this works and then start to break down the 3 secrets that unlock it for you, okay? Now, this little red arrow here is from our attorney. If you can see the window that he's sitting in there, he always wants me to make sure I don't put myself in any situation that gets us in trouble. I think you know this, but the disclaimer here is that you won't generate 23 leads per day, day one with this technique, right? I'm pretty sure you all knew that. In fact, when we started doing this here at Mindfire, we didn't think we'd generate 23 leads a day either. Our goal was just to start to create more awareness, to create more inbound leads, just to kind of keep things afloat. I'll tell you more about that in a minute, but back then, what we were trying to do, and maybe some of you are in the same situation, is just start to move the needle a bit, right? To start to drive more inbound interest in what we were doing. The key is, I want to stress this to you, is that persistence pays off, okay? Because we kept at it, we tried a bunch of different things, and eventually this flywheel, if you will, started turning more and more, gaining more and more momentum. But the key was that we had to continue to push forward. We had to keep doing it. And over time, and I'm going to show you the results, began to get to this volume of inbound interest, okay? What I want to know from you right now, have that question box open, is I don't know how 23 leads per day sounds to you. Is that a lot? Is that a little? That's roughly what, 600 leads a month, right? I want to know, what are you looking for? Go over there in the question box, in the chat box, and just drop in, are you looking for 10 more inbound inquiries a week? Are you looking for 10 more a day? Just give us some context so we have an idea of what we're looking for here. Go ahead and drop that stuff in. I want to see from John, Ben, Kelly, Bobby, Michael, Ellen, Teresa, Danny, Lori, a bunch of names here. I'm seeing Wendy say 10 a day. John, I want to hear from you. Ben, I want to hear from you. Go in there and tell us kind of what are you looking for in terms of inbound interest to your organization. 1 new lead a day, says Michael. 15, says Lori. 15 per what? Per day, Lori? Per week? Give us a little context there. 1 a day, okay, yep, makes sense. 10 a week or 10x a week. I don't know, David, maybe that means you want to 10x your volume per week. Very interesting, folks. Keep dropping that in there. That's helpful for us. When we created this session today with IPMA, the reason why we did this is because we want to give you a way that you can build campaigns that go deeper than your current strategies for driving inbound interest, okay? I want to help you 2x whatever it is you're doing right now, okay? So I want to help you get to a point where using this technique, you're able to move away from probably what you've tried in the past, which is, maybe a one-off, one-time marketing effort. Maybe your marketing right now is kind of sporadic. Maybe it's not managed. Maybe some of our customer service people are doing a little bit here and there, but you don't necessarily have a focused way of being able to do this in a way that scales, okay? If you're like most people that we speak to, that I get to speak to, heck, even outside of print, it doesn't really matter. Most organizations right now come from an environment where their marketing efforts, their campaigns create leads, awareness, or interest momentarily, but they don't continue after that campaign is over. What I'm trying to give you here, folks, is a way that you can do that systematically, where even if you're asleep, so to speak, these things continue to work for you. And your situation, you might be coming from a small organization, or heck, even if you're a larger implant, we don't have a lot of people just sitting around twiddling their thumbs to create marketing campaigns. It's hard to do this on a consistent basis. So what I'm going to show you today solves that problem. Now, one last piece of housekeeping here. It's a little bribe to get you to stay to the end. And we mentioned this in some of the pre-event material. I'm going to give you a way that you can access a marketing campaign that's almost 90% ready to run. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can get that. If you stay to the end of the presentation, we're going to give you a way to do that. This works really well if, I know some of you are in education, if there's anybody here from a religious institution, a nonprofit, anybody who needs to do fundraising will benefit from this. And even if you don't happen to do fundraising, the software that I'm giving you will allow you to start to amplify what you're already doing, okay? I know your attention is the most valuable asset I can ask for. So spend 60 minutes with us. I'm going to give this to you at the end. I think that's a very pretty fair trade. All right, let's get started. Let's start to peel this back and understand how this works. So I want to start by defining some information here for you. When I say campaign, a marketing campaign, maybe some of you are wondering, Dave, what do you mean? And why does my implant actually need to do something like this? What I would argue is if you're responsible for managing your implant, and part of your responsibility is in generating activity to keep that implant fed with jobs. And if part of your responsibility is to make sure that your parent organization understands your strategic importance, then you probably know the feeling that this gentleman has here on the screen, right? Of needing to get more attention, of wanting to stand out, of waiting for the phone to ring, or get the inbox to light up, or whatever an inbox does when something new comes into it, right? But deep down inside, let me ask you a question. Does it feel like the model that you've used in the past is broken, or that something has changed about how we can get attention in this ever increasingly noisy world? Do you feel that? If you do, go over there to the question box and drop a 1. I want to see if that resonates with you. Do you know the feeling like this gentleman here of waiting for something to happen, of waiting for something to come in and knowing that what used to work just doesn't seem to be working anymore? So when I say marketing campaigns, I mean sophisticated ways of interacting with your parent organization, with potential consumers of your print, of folks who need your print, to get them to come to you instead of you, like this gentleman here, waiting for the phone to ring. I want to show you how to do that, okay? Because when I say a campaign, I mean things that go way beyond just sending an email, way beyond just creating a simple funnel, way beyond just a lead page, okay? That's not enough these days. What we're here to argue is that the only way for you to grow your implant through marketing is through a very special type of multi-channel, multi-touch campaign, okay? But how you do this is key. That's what I want to show you. Now, some of you just jumped in, so let me introduce myself before I go any further. I'll spend 10 seconds here. As Jennifer said, I am the co-founder of Mindfire. We've been awarded the Inc. 500 award twice as the fastest growing software company. We serve thousands of printers and brands, helping them address exactly what I'm talking to you about today, okay? Helping them reach and engage their audience to drive growth. And I like to make sure that we always continue this two-way conversation. If there's ever anything I can do to help you outside of this web class, here is my email address. Write that down, david.rosendahl@mindfireinc.com. I'll put it on the screen at the end as well. Love to hear from you. Now, we've worked with thousands of brands, hundreds of companies like the ones you see here on the screen, okay? Many, many different types of organizations, implants, commercial printers, large Fortune 100 companies, all of them kind of struggling with the same kind of feeling that I described to you just a moment ago, okay? And the same is true for us. I want to give you the context now of how we discovered this technique I'm showing you today, how it unfolded, so that you understand the framework for what I'm about to dive into here. If you look at our organization, Mindfire, and you rewind about 2 years ago, we were in a situation where, similar to what I'm seeing from some of you here in the question box, small organizations, resource constrained, don't have a lot of time to invest in marketing and sales. We were in a similar situation where we were finding that the inbound interest coming to us was beginning to diminish. We were literally like this poor guy here waiting for the phone to ring, okay? It was like all of a sudden, what we were accustomed to doing just wasn't working anymore. Something had changed, okay? So it's here at this point in our history that this technique that we're learning today, that I'm sharing with you today, began to unfold. And I want to give you the backstory to set the full context so you understand how this strategy fits together. Look at the screen, men and women. Look here. This is an important piece of the story. Tell me what you see. You probably see me in a silly Mickey Mouse shirt with a beautiful family, right? That's true. On the surface, that is exactly what's there. But I clearly remember this day because inside of me, the story was very different. Okay, we had taken my little 2-year-old at the time to Disneyland to celebrate her birthday. And while on the outside I'm smiling, I found myself in a situation like many of you, where you're thinking about, how am I going to continue to drive inbound interest? How am I going to continue to grow my organization? How am I going to continue to get out in front of my potential customers and existing customers to drive more business? If you've ever felt anything like that, give me a yes in the question box, okay? I remember it felt like this tight kind of pressure on my chest. I could feel my stomach was like in knots. It's just this uncomfortable feeling. On the outside, you're with friends, family, loved ones. Inside, you're worried sick, about how you're going to do this, how you're going to turn things around. So I'm seeing yes from Lori, Chester, Bobby, Kevin, Joseph, Chester. Okay, I'm amongst friends here. You know what I'm talking about. Because even on the outside, you might be smiling. Like the next day I took my little girl here at a dance class, but inside, I was trying to figure out, how are we going to drive more awareness so that we can continue to do what we're here to do, which is to serve customers. So I decided to take this challenge on head on, okay? Because what we were doing wasn't working. I took this on myself and I started experimenting, okay? Now, listen carefully here, because this is going to set the framework for everything we're about to talk about. I started experimenting with a bunch of different things because at heart, if you can't tell, I'm a geek and I love technology and I love marketing and I love where those two things come together, okay? The reason I'm telling you this is to give you the backstory so you understand the framework. As I started to look at where marketing and technology intersected, I found that there were ways to drive traffic, generate leads, drive awareness, drive inbound solicitations asking for our services in ways that we were not tapping into, that nobody was even talking about in our organization. And over the course of a few months, it wasn't day one, okay, this isn't some magic, thing that you immediately turn on, but suddenly, to everybody's surprise, we had more leads than we knew what to do with, and we had to actually turn them down. I'm going to show you that, okay? Now, certainly not all the leads were great, but we were far from dead. We were able to start to turn this thing up and down depending on what we needed. So you're probably wondering, Dave, okay, what was it that worked? What was the ingredient that actually started to turn this thing around for you? Here's what we found. And you're probably going to say, okay, I've heard that term before. It's content marketing, meaning high value content of different forms like emails, downloads, ebooks, podcasts, videos, all sorts of high value engaging content, and leveraging those in a very, very specific way. Okay, it took some time to figure out the way, but very specific way to start to create meaningful engagement with prospects, with customers, and using this content in a way that eventually got them to engage us, and then eventually turned into a sale, a revenue opportunity. And that's what I want to show you how to do for your organization. What happened for us is that we started, this is an actual inbox. Look at the screen. This is an actual inbox of just one person within Mindfire, one sales-minded person, if you will, one person responsible for dealing with customers. This is the kind of inbound activity we started to generate. We found that content, like the webinar that you're on today, ebooks, case studies, things like that, were very, very effective at driving awareness and leads and more activity for our organization, okay? But the problem was, and if you've ever tried anything like this yourself, you probably know what I'm talking about. It takes a lot of time to create the content, to prepare for webinars like the one we're on today, to do podcasts and videos. So this challenge of, okay, how do we actually make this happen? How do we put the time in that we need in order to be able to figure out how to create content at scale, led me to start to experiment with, maybe trade shows are better. Maybe I should speak on panels. Maybe that's easier, but then you've got travel, you've got logistics. Okay, so that's not any easier. Let's try podcasting, which, by the way, folks, is a tremendous, tremendous thing to do, to share ideas and thought leadership. But again, took a lot of time. So we said, okay, how about we create videos? And videos are also fantastic, men and women, but they also take a lot of time, right? Ultimately, what we found out is this stuff all worked. Things like this ebook here that you see on the screen, which is something that we wrote to help folks understand how Facebook actually works really well with print, direct mail specifically. But the problem was, that the challenge was, is that it takes a lot of time to do this stuff, okay? It takes time and it takes money. This piece right here, which is a fantastic ebook, actually cost our organization about $25,000 to put together. So what I want to know from you, go over to the question box, give me a yes if you've tried writing content like this yourself, or your organization, your implant has done this, but you found, as I've just described here, that it's time consuming, it's expensive, and that it takes a lot of resources. Walter, Lori, Chester, Bobby, Kevin, Joseph, I want to hear from you. I'm seeing your names coming up here on the screen. So let me know if you've tried this. And if you have, you probably found what we found, which was that all of this work just consumed a lot of energy, okay? And it was there at this point where we realized, on one hand, that yes, content works very well, but the problem is it takes so much time to put together and do well. It was right there, men and women, at that intersection point that we had this aha that turned us on to this technique that I want to show you, that gave us this way of generating 23 leads per day, okay? So in this material here that I'm going to share with you, you're going to want to take notes on how to do this. Again, I'm happy to answer questions at the end of the event and follow up with me through email if you want to know. But I want to help you understand the bare essentials here, the minimum things you need to do so you focus on the right things that are going to get you to where you want your implant to be, so that you can build on the strengths of your printing and mailing services and make you stand out over competitive noise, competitive pressures, whatever the case may be, and get the attention of your parent management, okay? So to help you fully understand how you need to go about this process, let me quickly show you the old way of doing stuff and then contrast it with the new, okay? So what I'm talking about here is, if you want to create content, if you want to do this in the right way, there's a lot of stuff you have to do. Number one, you have to come up with an idea. That in itself sometimes is what stops people dead in their tracks. Can't come up with something. I don't know what to say. Second, you have to write the content, the copy. Easily $2,000 to $5,000 of time or investment that you need to make. You need to take that content, you need to put it into HTML for a website, for a blog post. You need to put it up in WordPress or whatever's hosting your website or your blog. If you're going to do any kind of intelligent tracking around, who's actually reading it, how many people are reading it, that's going to take some time. And then if you want to get it out there, you've got to, create some emails. You need to test those emails and all of this stuff. If you add all of this up, I would argue humbly to all of you that it's probably, easily $10,000 on the low end if you consider all of the time that goes into creating something like this. But if you're like me, maybe the worst part isn't necessarily just spending that money, but the worst thing for me was an organization can spend this money only to find out that the content doesn't resonate. It doesn't get clicks. It doesn't get leads. It doesn't do anything. So you could spend this time, spend this money, only to find out that what you created was a dud. If you think about it, $10,000 is like I don't know, a small car, It's not an insignificant sum of money. Not only that, it can take weeks, sometimes months to put the stuff out. So what we thought to ourselves is there got to be a better way. How do we do this in a way where we don't incur this time and energy? So I'm going to show you that, but I want you to write down this key takeaway so that you understand the next piece I'm layering on here. Write this down. High quality content, consistently distributed via multiple channels will, and this is a fact I argue to you, will drive awareness for your implant, will create leads that will ultimately drive more demand for what you offer, more demand for print, okay? So now let me show you how to leapfrog the difficulties and, secret number one, actually ethically steal other people's content, okay, that has already been proven to work and use that for your implant, all right? Number two, how to actually use that content, specific workflows to use that content to generate more leads for your implant, and how you can do that in a pretty short amount of time. It's actually easier than you think. And then thirdly, there's a odd strategy that you can start to employ that's going to just escalate the level of awareness and help you really prove the value to your management that I want to show you, okay? So let's jump right in. Secret number one, you're going to want to write this stuff down. I'm going to give you some URLs and some tools that you could use, so be ready to write it down. I'm going to show you how to ethically steal other people's best performing content to use for your organization. And it's funny, as I was thinking about how to talk to you about this, I started thinking to myself, Dave, how is someone supposed to understand this? Maybe people are wondering, how did you arrive? How did Mindfire arrive at this? And really, as I started thinking about, that second level question of like, let's peel it back one level deeper and actually explain this to folks, I realized that for me, it started when I was a child. Now, this is me on the screen here. I actually had aspirations to be a concert pianist, and there's proof. You can see it on YouTube. But what I realized, coming from a family of little means, meaning very little money for teachers, very little money for lessons, any of that, was that I had to think differently than the rest in order to actually be able to compete. What I started to do was reverse engineer how other successful pianists were actually making it happen, meaning how did they memorize music? How did they practice? How did they perform? How did they get ready for concerts? There's a whole other story there. I'm not going to get into that. But what I did at that young age, yeah, I was a nerd back then too, is I reversed engineered how successful people did things to find how I could leapfrog and get there more quickly. And you know what? It worked. I achieved my goal, which was to become a top pianist here in the state. There's evidence on YouTube, like I said. But what I uncovered was something that, as I've gotten older, I've learned that others also have looked at. I don't know how you feel about Steve Jobs. If you look at the screen, you'll see a quote from Steve. He said, Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And at Apple, we've always been shameless about stealing great ideas. I found this in an old VHS recording of Steve. And then a few years later, in working with Tony Robbins, I found Tony say something similar, which is if you want to achieve success, all you need to do is find a way to model those who have already succeeded. So why am I telling you this? Well, men and women, this same thinking can apply to advancing your implant in the minds of your parent organization, okay? I started to use this thinking to say, okay, how do I use this in marketing? How do I use this to drive awareness? For some reason, I thought, and many of you may think the same thing, is that you've got to be, some incredible writer, you've got to be incredibly creative to create campaigns, you got to spend a lot of money, but maybe all you have to do is model someone who's already doing it. Let me show you what I mean. You probably understand that concept and you think, okay, Dave, makes sense, but where do I find good content? And put this in context of me and my implant. How do I do this? Here, look at the screen. Write this down, okay? Take notes on these steps. As I came across this whole notion here, I distinctly remember laying in bed and scrolling through Facebook, okay? I'm sure many of you do the same thing. I was frustrated, I was freaked out trying to figure out how to drive more awareness and more leads. And as I was scrolling through Facebook, I thought, you know what? Let's just type in direct mail. Can you see that right here in the upper left-hand corner where I typed in direct mail? Can you see that there? I typed that into Facebook, and look what I found. I started to see these posts that other people had written with direct mail as one of the topics or one of the keywords in that post. Okay, and what I found is that if I scrolled far enough down, look at the screen, men and women, you want to pay attention to this. Look at this. I'll just pick this one here, this one from MSNBC. Can you see this right here? It has 704 emotions here, you know, people pressing thumbs up or love or whatnot. 268 comments, 86 shares. This one's got 68, 38, and 10. This one from Entrepreneur has 69, 1, and 3. What I started to realize is that Facebook is giving me signals about content, okay? These posts here, these are linking to articles on the web. It's giving me signals about content that's already resonating, okay? I can kind of judge that if this one here has 69 and this one here has 704, something is different between these two, right? This one's got about 10 times the number of engagement from just a thumbs up and a love perspective, right? So I thought, okay, let's go over to LinkedIn. If you look at the screen, look here, upper left-hand corner, most people type in a name of a person or a company here. I said, let's try typing a topic. And I typed in direct mail, okay? You can think of something that might be applicable to your implant. Maybe it's a different term, but the concept is the same. I typed it in here, and what I found is that very similar to what I just saw on Facebook, I started to get these signals about what was working, what kind of content was working on LinkedIn. Go drop me an X in the chat box if you're understanding what I'm saying. Drop me an X if you understand that Facebook and LinkedIn are, if you're thinking about this the right way, are giving you signals about content that's working, right? This may have just turned on an aha for you. Yeah, I'm seeing the X's pour in. Awesome. Keep those coming in, folks. So what I did is the next morning I ran into my office. I remember I dinged my car door on a pole because I was so excited to get in, because I was thinking to myself, okay, is there a way that we could use what we're seeing here on the social networks to write content with a similar headline, maybe a similar content structure? Maybe that would allow us to leapfrog some of this pain. And then I had this thought was, well, could I use their content in any way and maybe somehow insert our call to action? That's what CTA stands for. Our call to action inside their content to drive leads for us. And I remember when I shared this with my team, they were like, what are you talking about? Makes absolutely no sense. And maybe some of you are thinking that too, but let me show you. Write this down, folks. This is not a Mindfire product. This isn't a pitch for Mindfire. I'm giving you a tool that you can use right now to do this. Sniply, so SNIPLY. You can see it up here in the upper left-hand corner. Let me show you what this does. So look at the screen here. Sniply does this. It allows you to add your call to action, like a button, a banner, or something, to any web content. So imagine you found a piece of information on BBC, on the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, CNN, Entrepreneur Magazine, whatever it might be. You find a good article that Facebook or LinkedIn is telling you resonates with your audience, okay? And Sniply allows you, you see this right here? Look at the screen right here. You see this orange box? This can be your banner, your brand impression can be right there. So what that means is that you, from Sniply, get this unique link to share this content. It looks like it's from the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Entrepreneur Magazine, printing impressions, whatever the case may be. And it gives you this unique link that you can share so that when anyone opens that page through that link, they're going to see that content along with your call to action inside of it, okay? Here's an example. Entrepreneur Magazine, I just did this really quick for you. Let's say that this content, for whatever reason, was germane or of interest to your target market, okay? You see this here? This is somebody else's content on Entrepreneur Magazine. But this little thing down here, I left it blank so that you have an idea, allows you to put in your implant logo here or your identifier and a short message and a button that links back to your website, that sends you an email, that goes to a landing page, that goes to your blog, whatever the case may be. Now you have a way to take this content, put your identifier inside of it or on it, and then begin to share it. Okay, so that's what, if you look at this graph here, you see how this kind of slopes up and to the right here? That's where we started experimenting with this. Somewhere Q1 2018, we turned it on a little bit more here, progressively began to improve it. And you can see in Q1, 2,700 leads generated using this technique. I'll describe to you why this comes down here in just a moment. But this is the direct result, men and women, of this technique. Can you imagine if this started happening to you? What actually happened here, I have to be honest here, is we started generating more inbound interest than we could handle. And so folks were saying, all right, slow your roll, marketing team. This is too much. We need to tone it down a little bit, okay? So that's what this technique does. Now, let me give you one of my other hacks, if you will, or useful tools. I started spending all of this time on Facebook and LinkedIn, the social networks, just looking at what content was resonating. And I thought to myself, again, admittedly, I was in bed, trying to figure this stuff out, just as some of us do, thinking about our businesses. And I said, wouldn't it be great if there was one place that I could go to that had all of this information kind of pulled into it? And so what I found, write this down, again, not a Mindfire product. This is for you. Write it down. Look at the screen. BuzzSumo, BuzzSumo. And what this allows you to do is enter a topic that you think is of interest to your audience, your parent organization, the people that you serve. Let's say it's direct mail, again, like we just did a second ago. And what you will then see are articles from a variety of different publications, and it will show you the social signals. Look over here on the right-hand side. Look over here, Bobby, Ben, Angela, Chester, Chuck, I'm talking to you. Look over here on the right-hand side, you will see how well that content is performing, okay? So what that allows you to do immediately is assess how well this content is doing so that you can use it yourself, plug it into Sniply, and start to share it, okay? Now, inevitably, when I get to this point in the conversation, especially if I'm in front of people face-to-face, they'll say, all right, Dave, I get it, but you know what? I still think I can be more creative. I can create something better than maybe one of those third parties can. Okay, maybe, but have you heard this saying? You can always tell who the pioneers are because they have arrows in their back and are lying face down in the dirt. Have you heard that? It means that you can be, a pioneer and come up with something original. But why? You're likely going to end up lying face down in the dirt, especially if you think about how hard the art of marketing actually is. So what I'm arguing to you is don't try to recreate, model what's already working. Use content that's already working, all right? And put that together using Sniply, snip.ly, and begin to promote that content. When you do that, what you're going to see, if you look here at the screen, this is the flowchart I showed you just a second ago, or the flowchart, the dashboard that shows you that using this proven content begins to jumpstart your results to begin to engage your audience in ways that you haven't been able to before. So the key takeaway here is high quality content doesn't have to be yours, okay? You can use third-party content with a call to action, like I just showed you a second ago, and quote unquote, hijack it, okay? It sounds like a crazy word there, but hijack it to lead to folks being more aware of your implant, driving more inbound interest, and ultimately driving more print. Give me a yes in the question box if you're getting how this comes together. That's part one. Drop me a yes. I want to make sure you're tracking here, all right? Because now what I want to show you is once you have that content, thank you, Bobby, Danny, Kevin, Ben, Kelly, Lori, thank you for dropping the yeses in there. Keep it coming, folks. I want to show you now how to use that content to actually begin to engage folks, okay? Because if you're with me so far and you're tracking, I think you would agree that engaging content works. I think that you would agree now that you can use content written by others for your own promotional purposes, but what exactly do you do with it? This is what most people do, and then I'm going to show you what you should consider doing, okay? Look at the screen. So David, Michael, Kelly, Chester, Lori, Steve, Bobby, Kevin, Ben, please look at the screen here. This is what most people do, okay? Whoops. They will send an email to their clients, let's say their constituents, their stakeholders, and lead them to that content, okay? So they'll get a group of people, they'll use their email program, they'll send one email and drive people to that content. And then they'll come back to me or to Mindfire and just like this gentleman here say, nope, this stuff doesn't work. Blah, I don't want to do it. Of course, that's nothing that you would say. I know that. But that's typically what happens, right? People just say, I tried this, it doesn't work. Well, you need to think about it differently. And here's what I would argue to you, men and women. This is what we found after experimentation. It's very important to have content that resonates. That's what this box designates here. And I've given you a way that you can start to understand that, right? The key is, men and women, that it's no longer enough just to send one email. The simplest way to start to generate more awareness from within your parent organization is to send that same email 3 days later to the folks who didn't open the first. If I told you how many large organizations simply fail to take that second step, you would be dumbfounded. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you know that. Most people stop at email 1. We suggest, and we found, send email 2. And then email 3, wait another 2 days and send it to the people here in email 2 who didn't click, okay? So 2 additional touches using the data that you have to start to drive more traffic to that content. Now, with something like Sniply, which I just showed you, in that content, make sure you're embedding a call to action. So that's what this little yellow thing represents here. Let's imagine you have a webinar, maybe like the one we're on today, some download, maybe some promotional flyer, something that you want people to know. Make sure to embed your call to action in that content so that when people get these emails, they read the valuable content and they have a way to then take a next step with you. Okay, it seems like a no-brainer, I'm sure now as I'm showing you. But again, men and women, the number of people who do not do this is staggering. Now, this is the other piece that 99% of people will not do. When those emails are being opened, when that content is being read, and when people are actually engaging with your call to action, you can use that digital body language, like email opens and clicks and things like that, to actually know who it is that's reading your content, who it is that's engaging. And if you have somebody on your team who can give that person a call or drop them an email, you will often find that people who are opening, reading, clicking, even though they may not give you a call right then and at that moment, if you engage them using that information, you can begin a dialogue that produces value for both sides, okay? For both you as well as the person on the other end. The other thing most people do not do is they think about sending this content to just one group of people, let's say their clients or maybe their prospects. But people who are doing this well are sending it to both groups, segmenting it to folks who are already using their implant services, folks who are not using their implant services. I'm using the terms client and prospect rather generically here, but I think you get the idea. The key is that here's the takeaway. Distributing the content in the way I've just shown you to your parent organization can be done via email, but most people will fail to do it right, okay? And this is where you can have an advantage, and this is where you can start to stand out. In addition, men and women, I implore you, use the digital body language. What I mean by that is these little signals. Look here at the screen. David, Debbie, Alan, Gail, Jim, Joe, John, Joseph, Karen. Look here at the screen. See these little bells? That's what that signifies there. That if you use that digital body language at those key points, you're able to engage folks in a way that most people do not to start to drive awareness for your implant, okay? So don't just send one email. Don't just send 2 emails. Don't just send 3, but also start to use all of this intelligence to make this come together, all right? So let's move on to number 3 here. Before I do that, I want you to give me a yes in the chat box. If you're tracking so far with how you find the content, how you can use something like Sniply to embed your own CTA, call to action, your own brand into that. And third, how you need to do this in a way that's going to set you apart. Drop me a yes. I see it from Steve, Walter, Kelly, Michael, Kevin, David, Chester, Lori. Thank you. Keep it coming, folks. Let me move to secret number 3 here. We talked about email a second ago, right? I know that you're in the business primarily of print-related services and products. But what I'm about to say probably won't shock most of you, but it's very important. Your parent organization, the folks that you serve, your constituents, those men and women are, and this is according to the latest data, are available on little over 7 channels and 4 devices in a 24-hour period. Now, I know you're probably familiar with this concept of multi-channel marketing. I'm sure you understand how it all fits together, but let me show you how you can actually take some steps forward to address this problem. Because what this means is if you're only sending email, if you're only using single channel communication, it is not enough anymore. People are on 7.2 channels, 4 devices in just a 24-hour period, okay? So you need to move beyond just email if you're going to do this successfully. Like it or not, and I know some of you are on social, I know some of you are not. All of the social channels work a little bit differently. I'm not suggesting that you have to learn all of them immediately. Pick one, learn one that works for you, and then if you're the one responsible for engaging in this way, doing the stuff that I'm talking about here today, or if you're not and you're assigning this to somebody, you need to pick a modality. Here's what I mean by that. This is really important. These social networks are favoring content, like the stuff that I've shown you today, in basically 3 different modalities: words, audio, and video. So what I mean by that is if this is you who's responsible for communicating this information, or if you're assigning this to someone on your team, pick a modality that you're most comfortable with. If you like writing, then you should be sharing this information in words. If you like creating audio, our phones have voice memo recording devices on them, right? It's very simple to record something very relevant to your parent organization, to your constituents on your phone and distribute that in audio format. It's even simpler in some cases to create a video. If you're comfortable in front of the camera, if you're comfortable talking to people in front of the camera on video, use video. You don't necessarily have to use all 3, but pick one that you're comfortable with. And then when you do that, I'm going to show you here how you can start to use these social channels to get the message out there. I can't possibly do a full training on this, okay? I'm just going to give you the highlights, but write these things down, okay? Because this is very, very important as you think about how to get your message out across on social. So the first thing you want to do on Facebook, of course, start to post those content links, those Snipply links. I would argue you should do that on your personal page as well as, your implants fan page as well, okay? I know some people are uncomfortable doing it on their personal page, but I argue you should do it on both. I also suggest that you build a custom audience of your parent organization's key contacts. If those words sound like Greek to you, let me define it for you. Write this down, custom audience, write that down. All it means, and you may know this already, you may not, is that Facebook allows you to take a list of your customers, of your parent organization members, whatever the term is that you use for your audience, and you can actually upload those into Facebook. And then Facebook will give the ability to you to put sponsored content in front of just those people, okay? So build a custom audience of the people that you want to engage. That's another idea. Second, Facebook also gives you the ability to target just people within a 1-mile radius of where your implant is. And if you're embedded inside an organization like a university I'm seeing here, we've got a lot of people in education, I bet 1 mile probably encompasses the core folks that you want to engage. Consider doing that to get very focused, just very targeted in front of the people that need to see your message. Often when I talk about Facebook, I will hear this myth, and it's 100% a myth, folks. I hear day in and day out, business people are not on Facebook, and I cannot underscore that enough for you and say that is an absolute myth, okay? The folks that you do business with, the men and women that you want to engage are absolutely on Facebook. The other problem that I often see here for folks in your seat is they'll say, well, I'm not on Facebook, therefore I don't think my customer or my prospect's on Facebook. That's a fallacy, men and women. Don't allow yourself to fall victim to that, because Facebook, believe it or not, is very, very effective at engaging your target audience, okay? So that's Facebook. Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, the content that does well there are pictures and videos of the types of stuff that you can do for your customers, okay, for those who you serve. Share pictures, share videos. Again, if you happen to like doing video, that's a great format. You can also build a custom audience there, just like you can on Facebook. You can also do the 1 mile radius, targeting people in your area. And again, if you subscribe to the notion that business people the people you want to serve are not on Instagram, that is also not the case. All right. You need to put that out of your mind, because people that you want to do work with are absolutely on Instagram. We see this day in and day out for B2B organizations across the world. Okay. It is no longer the case that business people are not there. Whenever I bring up business people, I always then hear questions about LinkedIn. Okay. What should I do with LinkedIn? Well, very similar. You should be posting your content on both your personal page and your organization page on LinkedIn. You can also build a custom audience there, okay? Similar to what you can do on Instagram and Facebook. The thing about LinkedIn that's really remarkable right now, if you could remember one thing, just one thing out of today's presentation, is that the organic reach on LinkedIn, meaning the reach that you have without paying a dime, is unbelievable right now. It reminds me of where Facebook was maybe 10 years ago, okay? You can literally reach thousands or tens of thousands of people with your posts on LinkedIn. It is unbelievable. The myth here that a lot of people subscribe to, which I want to argue you should break free of, is that LinkedIn is just for job hunters. Men and women, if you haven't been on LinkedIn recently, it's changing. It's changing very quickly. It's hot right now. The organic reach, like I said, is unbelievable. Consider this as the place you invest your time. Twitter, also very good, allows you to do things like what I've described with the other social networks, posting your links. You can build a custom audience just like you can in the others. Okay, so that's another great location to invest some time in. But the other thing you want to do is pay attention to new and emerging technologies. I want to know, go over to the question box, how many of you have installed or used TikTok? If you have no idea what TikTok is, say no idea in the question box there. Quick, quick, quick. We only have about 10 minutes. How many of you know what TikTok is? TikTok is a new social network, okay? It's growing very quickly. I think, in my opinion, it's probably the only viable competitor right now to Facebook or Instagram. Let's see how many of you are on TikTok. No idea, no idea, no idea. If you have children, ask your children. They likely will know. Do this tonight. Write it down, ask them tonight. It skews younger, okay? But so did Facebook 10 or 15 years ago. Normally what happens, the evolution of these networks is they start young and then they come into the mass market. Video content on TikTok rules, okay? It is like no other. This is where video is having its heyday here on TikTok. The organic reach, just like I mentioned to you on LinkedIn, is extremely high. Now, if you go and install it, it's extremely addictive, okay? Don't do it right now. Wait till the end of the presentation. Don't do it. Maybe wait till tonight. Watch out. It's very, very addictive, okay? So be careful when you install TikTok. The key is here, you're probably sitting to yourself thinking, okay, I get it. I should be using social, but there's too many choices, too many options. Which one do I do? I suggest to you, keep calm and pick one, okay? Just pick one with one modality and get good at that. And the one mind shift that you need to make, if you look at social media as a waste of time or as a time suck or as just pictures of cats and dogs and cute babies, I argue to you, shift your mindset a little bit here from looking at your phone and looking at social and just consuming what you see. Switch your mindset to be that of a producer, meaning look at what's working. Look at what's working for other companies, other implants. What's working for organizations like Implant Impressions that we're talking to today? What's working for IPMA? What's working for other companies, other brands, and look at their content and consume it with that in mind. Because when you can do that, you switch from just consuming, just looking at pretty babies and stuff, to thinking about how do I create and add value as a producer of content for my target audience, okay? So social, those channels which I just described to you, there's more, but those are the key ones right now, will get your content in front of your parent organization and give them the perception that you're everywhere, that you're omnipresent, that you're thought leaders, but only, men and women, if you produce that content correctly and you commit to it, okay? So if you do this, I wanna know from you now, I'm gonna jump into Q&A here just shortly, but I wanna know if you did this, if you could see yourself doing this, and let's say, just like I showed you in Secret One, you found content that was working, you used something like Sniply to embed your call to action, you started promoting it through email, and you invested some time into social and started getting it out there in front of your parent organization. Do you think you could do it? Give me a yes in the chat box if you think you can do this. I'm gonna wait a moment here. I wanna see the yeses coming in. I still see people talking about TikTok. Wait till after the session. Do you think you could do this? Yes from Kevin, yes from Nathan, yes from Michael. Yes, you can, men and women. I know that as I've described this 23 leads per day that we've created, that it's a hard number to grasp. I get that, but it works. This strategy works. And if you think about these 23 leads a day that I'm talking about, that we can do here at Mindfire, and you think to yourself, shoot, even if I only got half of that, that would still be pretty dramatic for many of your organizations. Or even if you got only half of the half, that would be pretty dramatic, right? The key here is, friends, you don't have to be perfect at this. You can totally screw this up, get half of what we suggest you get, or half of the half, or even half of the half of the half. But if you model what works and you use the process we've talked about today and you stick at it, persistence, remember, that's the key that's going to set you apart and is going to lead you to success. So that's what I want you to understand from these 3 secrets that I've talked about here, how you can ethically use other people's content that you already know works to drive more awareness for your implant and drive more inbound interest to your organization. Now, before we get to Q&A, I promised you this free campaign. Jot this down, mindfiredavinci.com. You can do this after the session. You see the URL here on the screen, mindfiredavinci.com, all one word. Click on the little button here where it says Get Started. IPMA has generously allowed us to provide you free access to this. You can get it by clicking that Get Started button. When you get there, okay, you don't have to do it now, do it later, and get that free campaign that I mentioned to you at the start of today's session. So, Jennifer, it looks like we've got about 5 minutes officially, but folks, I want to open this up for questions. Jennifer, I don't know if you've scanned through and have seen a few questions that you want to throw at me. For the rest of you who are still here, my email address is on the screen. Let's try to get your question in now, but if for whatever reason you don't, we will follow up with you and make sure it gets answered, or feel free to write down the email address and follow up with us after the event, and we'll carry on the conversation. So get your questions in. Jennifer, let's hear from you. What kinds of questions have come in that you think we can answer now?
Well, one of the questions that came in was concerning uploading the key contacts to Facebook. Couldn't some of the people object to this being just automatically uploaded?
Yes. So great question. Yep. So when you upload the custom audience to Facebook, you tell Facebook, look, I've obtained these names on the up and up. So if you've seen anything that's happened with Cambridge Analytica, Mark Zuckerberg lately, there's a lot of crackdown on using Facebook inappropriately. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. When you upload names, you have to tell Facebook where you got them from, and they need to be customers or folks that you've engaged in your organization or through your organization. And when it gets uploaded, it's hashed, which means that it's unreadable to Facebook. So their privacy and their information is secured. And then, of course, when people start to see your content, start to see posts from you, they could opt out of receiving it. But more often than not, men and women, what we see is that if you do a good job in creating that content, you'll actually get quite significant engagement, meaning people actually enjoy getting that information. So, Jennifer, if that person or he or she has more questions, I'd love to talk more about that, but that's how I would answer that.
Okay, and there was most of the TikToks, I'd never heard of it, by the way, so, and I don't feel bad that I haven't. Apparently, the one person that did heard that that it might have some security issues. So is that true?
I haven't heard that, but whoever asked that, there are lots of issues that every organization of that size certainly has. I don't know of any specific security issue. If you know of one in specific, let us know. There's somewhere around 700 or 800 million people on TikTok as of last tally. So they're not close to Facebook yet in terms of their size and scope, but any organization of that size, I'm sure, is going to have issues. But don't let that keep you from getting your message out and trying to serve the people that you need to serve.
Good point. I mean, I think probably most of us are on Facebook, and we get stuff we don't want to see every day. Mm-hmm. You just make the choice of scrolling by it or hide the post or whatever.
Yep.
There's another one that had heard the same thing about TikTok, and that it was, don't know if this is true, and that's why he's asking, supposedly owned by the Chinese government.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So it is a Chinese organization that is involved with some of it. I know the U.S. counterpart is a U.S. company. Again, since companies in China, I guess, are state-owned, you know what? I'm not sure exactly how that works there in China. But yes, there is a Chinese component here to it. But again, I wouldn't let that keep anybody from taking a look at it and being aware of what's going on. Certainly should not keep you from taking a look.
Okay, well, let's let everybody give a little bit more time for see if any more questions come in. In the meantime, while we wait, I just want to remind everyone that our next IPMA webinar is November 14th. That is a Thursday, 1:30 Central. Title is 2020 Wide Format Sign and Graphic Imperatives. You can find the details and description of this on our website at ipma.org.
Jennifer, I have one question for the audience that's still here. If men and women, what would be really helpful to Jennifer and to me is, I'd love to know what's the one thing that stood out to you today? What's the one thing that gave you that aha kind of light bulb moment? If you can put your finger on one, go over to the question box, just drop that in. That would be a huge favor to us. We'd love to know what stood out to you today. I see a question here from Corrine. Jennifer, I don't know if you saw that. She's asking, to use Sniply, is it only for social media, or can I use it if we don't have social media yet? So, Corrine, great question. You can use it across social, but you can also use it in email or sharing it through, any other means by which somebody can click on that link to see the content. So you don't have to use it only through social. So let's see, Ben says that what stood out to him was the info on social media. Steve is saying that using content and Sniply. Corrine saying thank you. Kelly says that what stood out is LinkedIn is leaning towards being more social. Yeah, Kelly, LinkedIn is just exploding right now. Incredible organic reach, like I said, and more content that's not just business focused. It's more kind of holistically around what it looks like to be a person who works and also has a family and leads a life outside of work. So it's a very interesting time for LinkedIn right now. David is saying Sniply. Okay, great, awesome, folks. Thank you. That's very helpful. Any other questions?
The one thing, actually I do. Jennifer has a question because we get a lot from they're called alignable. I don't know if it's more just of a Midwest, middle of the country kind of thing, but it's pretty big here, and I don't know if anybody at our webinar has heard of it, or if you had heard of it, David. Alignable.
I've heard of it, but have no insight into anything of value. No, I don't know. I should learn.
Okay, I was just curious because it's there's a lot. I mean, I think it's more focused to be local. They connect you with, more within your geographical area, but
sure,
I wasn't for sure. So
yeah, I'm seeing Gail says my organization just started using Facebook Workplaces, wondering if this works on Workplace as well. Yes, Gail, definitely. Good question. Michael saying we'll have to wait until the state government embraces social media more before we can utilize some of these techniques. Michael, makes sense. I understand that as well. Certainly makes sense to me. Let's see, Jennifer, you see anything else coming in here that we should answer?
No, I don't, but I know you might put up your, you've got your email up, so I'm sure if you think of a question later for our attendees, I'm David, be happy to answer them. Just reach out to him, write that email address down. David, I want to thank you so much. It was so interesting for being with us today and sharing what you know so well. Thank you.
My pleasure. Men and women, thank you for spending time with us. Again, like I said at the start, I know that putting an hour on your calendar is not insignificant. So thank you to Kevin and Michael, Gail, David, Kelly, Corrine, Steve, Ben, and the rest of you. There's too many to name. But thank you all for spending time with us, and I hope to be able to see you in person very, very soon. Thank you, Jennifer, for sponsoring this today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, David. I want to also thank all of our IPMA members for attending. You are exactly what makes IPMA the wonderful association that it is. Don't forget to go ipma.org and register for the Perfect Vision 2020 conference. get your early bird pricing. I hope everybody really has a good day. Don't forget to watch out for those trick-or-treaters tomorrow. It is actually snowing again here, so I don't know if they're going to be out very heavy. And also, just in everything you do, you always need to shoot for the moon, because the very, very worst thing that could happen if you didn't make it is that you will end amongst the stars. You guys have a great day. Thanks so much.